This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Matchroom's Frank Smith here in London. Frank, good to see you. How are you? You're one of the dry ones.
I know. To be honest, it was all going off in the background. I just heard splashes, I heard sirens, I heard a lot. And now I look round and Jamie Ward's looks like wet hair. Sean O'Toole's soaked. So I don't know what's happened while we've been here.
They were doing a graph while she was sat here nice and comfy.
I know, yeah. I was getting asked. I was just answering questions. That's the easy bit. They were getting wet.
Frank, obviously, let's go back to the past weekend. The reason we're here, obviously, in honour of Dalton Smith, a fantastic performance this past weekend. Just some time to reflect on what was a bit of a statement win against Jose Zepeda.
Yeah, look, spectacular win from him. And I think the key thing to point out as well is not just the win, but what felt like a special night in Sheffield. You know, the atmosphere in there felt different. It felt like we were starting something new. I know he's 16 fights in or 15 fights in, but it felt like something new on Saturday night. And a special night like we've seen with Kell Brook over the years, it felt like we were recreating those moments and so much to look forward to. And, you know, look, you have to commend Dalton Smith because in a world where a lot of people don't want to take fights, he stepped up against Zepeda, and many people thought was a step too far. And he delivered a performance that no one's really done against Jose Zepeda. You know, it was a great win, and it sets him up perfectly for what's to come for the rest of the year.
Boxing can never be short of superstars. It might be a little too early to say that at this moment in time about Dalton, but given obviously the fact we're seeing a lot of the UK's kind of leading names going and travel to Saudi, how important is it to have somebody like Dalton coming through who can start to sell out an arena in Sheffield and starting to push more stars through now?
100%. Look, if you can build a fan base like he has, look, we know Sheffield somewhere where they get behind their fighters, they get behind boxing. They have for many years and will continue to do so. Now, look, Dalton sold around 1,000 tickets just personally himself, and that's, you know, in British boxing that's a huge number of tickets, and it shows the fan base he's got. It's only going to keep growing and building. And look, the reality is you can be a great personality and everything, but people want to see entertainment. And Dalton Smith has delivered entertainment. He's finished back in August as well. That's what people want to see. And we'll continue to build him and grow him to where we believe he can be. So, yeah, I think with everything going on all around the world in boxing, I think to be able to build a star like Dalton in Sheffield and, you know, keep bringing these big nights to the UK is important.
Eddie said in the post-fight pressure it felt somewhat reminiscent of Kell Brook when he was fighting in Sheffield. Did you have the same vibe? Did you feel like it was bringing back those types of memories?
Yeah, like I said, I think the atmosphere felt different in there on Saturday. It felt like it was the start of something special, really. And we've been lucky enough to be involved in those big nights in Sheffield. And, you know, look, the aim is to get to Hillsborough. You know, we all want to do that, and we will do that, and sell out that stadium. And, you know, you're led by Dalton delivering the performances and taking the fights, and that's what he wants to do.
One of those fights that many people have spoken about, and Dalton in my interview said that he believes he dropped down a few levels for that fight, is the Azim one. What is the latest with it? I know he's about to shoot. I've seen Frank picking that back up, just saying goodbye to your Sheffield superstar there, Dalton Smith. Yeah, the Azim fight. What's the latest? What can you tell me about it?
Look, we're waiting. 4 odd weeks ago, I met Ben Shalom. After that, he said, I've discussed it's not a fight we're going to take next. No problem. Like, well, I get that. Look, they represent Azim. If we were representing Azim, I'd understand that. But at the same time, when you've been ordered for a fight for your belt, you know, either vacate or take the fight. You know, and 3 weeks ago they said it's not the fight he's going to take next. No worries. Then they waited, they left it, they ignored the messages because I think they wanted to see what happened on Saturday night. They wanted Dalton Smith to lose. That's the reality of it. That's all they were waiting for. Unfortunately for them, it's more embarrassing now because he had a spectacular performance at levels and levels above of Azim. And, you know, now they're sitting there going, well, this is awkward. But I don't know, I hope the fight, it's a big fight. People want to see domestic clashes. And you can't represent Azim and talk about him fighting Sean Davis and talk about fighting at Wembley Stadium and then turn down the Dalton Smith fight. But look, our job's to represent Dalton Smith. We're not going to let that hold up his career. I think the purse bid's next week. I don't expect it to happen, but I hope it does happen because I think it's a great fight. But if he doesn't do that, then we look at keep moving him through the ranks, and you know he's at a different level now, and we want to keep building him at that level.
You obviously said that you met with Ben about 4 weeks ago. Have you had any correspondence with him or with somebody from Boxer since Saturday night?
Yeah, this morning I said, are you pulling him out? And he said, we'll know in 24 hours. Even though 3 weeks ago he said they're not doing that fight next. And I said, okay, please pull him out or withdraw him. And they didn't reply.
Away from all things Adam Azim, another fight which I thought was interesting that Eddie raised was the one with Regis Prograis. Regis actually reaching out to Eddie saying, I'll take that fight next. Be a very good stepping stone once again. If Dalton was to come out on top of that, that is.
Yeah, 100%. That's a massive fight. Regis Prograis, look at what he's done in his career. But I think after a fight, the win he's had against Zepeda, that's the kind of fight. If the Adam Azim fight doesn't come off, I think we have to see where he ends up in the rankings as well. It was obviously for the WBC silver title on Saturday. It means he'll be ranked very highly in the next round of rankings. See what happens with the WBC belt as well post the April 20 show, and because he could be in there with Sandor Martin, arguably. So let's see. But I think. In terms of steps, next steps are see what happens with Adam Azim and then make a plan from there. We've only got to wait a week now.
Something I want to touch on, obviously Eddie said again that he thinks that beyond Haney Garcia, the winner of that fight might well vacate because you have Sandor Martin next in line. That becomes open. Let's say if it was to be Dalton, Sandor Martin, it's a very awkward fight for a world title. Would you be happy with that fight? Would it be one which you would entertain?
Look, I think Dalton, Grant, Sean, they're all very confident in his ability, as are we. And we believe that's a fight he goes in and wins. There's lots of ifs, buts. We've got to see what happens over the next few weeks. He'll take any fight. He's shown that with his Zepeda fight. He's not scared of a step up. He wants to take proper fights. And so if that's the fight, and we'll make it happen for the world title.
Obviously, Frank, one of the biggest talking points from last night was a news article came out from Riyadh from the Daily Mail with regards to Conor Benn's appeal being unsuccessful. On his behalf, obviously, the board and UKAD successful appealing it. What can you tell me about what's come out?
Nothing. Look, it's another sort of story that's come out, leaked, that's come out around this whole situation that's been ongoing. It's not something I can comment on. It's an ongoing legal matter. Hence why there's been no comment from the board by UKAD, NADP, or Conor Benn. I know people want always to be able to answer the question, but right now it's a legal matter and subject to confidentiality. Otherwise, those parties would have, I'm sure, come out.
Can I ask him, Frank, obviously, because the article has come out as well now, is there truth in it? Has the appeal process been won by the board and UKAD?
Again, it's not for me. It's under confidentiality. It's not our situation to discuss. It's between UKAD, NADP, BBFC, and Conor Benn. It's not something, as you've seen in the article, no one's commented on it.
When would we expect to get a comment on it then?
When they're allowed to, under the confidentiality restrictions. But again, not for me. As much as I'd love to talk about everything in life, it's not for me to speak about, and something that I'm sure when they're able to, they will.
So would you expect it to be the board or UKAD to comment on the outcome first, or how would it actually you would expect it to play out?
If it's confidentiality across all parties, then no one would be able to talk about it. Is the reality of it? But it's not. It's not something. It's not a matter that we're directly involved in. Obviously, Conor is, and as soon as can talk more, I'm sure everyone will be able to.
Fair enough, Frank. Move forwards. 5 versus 5. Obviously, we had the announcement of the weights last week. 2 heavyweight bouts, and obviously I saw Eddie say that he wants to try and bring in a floating draft in another heavyweight edition. What can you tell me about that?
I'm not the heavyweight draft. I know there was thoughts about I could weigh around heavyweight, but it's not me. Look, the traction off the back of that announcement's been huge, and it just shows what an event it's going to be as well. Because that's just announcing weight divisions, let alone the fights involved. And it's great to see everyone picking their fights and what they think is going to happen. It's been quite interesting to see what choices are out there. But yeah, it's going to be a big night. It's been a long time coming, and can't wait to go in there and smash Queensbury.
Some of the fights rather have been spoken about is Wilder Zhang and Dubois and Hrgovic. Are the likes of Hrgovic and Wilder guys you guys have reached out to?
No one currently. Let's see in April who's on there, but no one currently.
How confident are you when you look at the picks that you were planning on making that you will be coming out on top?
Look, the focus for us is to get a win. We're only going to put people in who we believe can win the fights. It's going to be the bragging rights are going to go on for a long time with this, aren't they? So we're going to make sure we put in the best possible fighters, and I'm sure Queensbury will do the same, and it's going to make for a great night of boxing.
Also saw Turki El Al Sheikh mention a show in Wembley in September. What is the reasoning behind that? Obviously saw them say that it was somewhat of a promotion for Riyadh season. What can you tell me about their plans for it?
Yeah, look, I think as you saw in that interview, His Excellency's a massive boxing fan. He wants to see the best nights in boxing, the best fights in boxing, and I think we've been lucky. The fifth, it'll be 5 shows by June. I think they would have done, starting in October. You know, massive nights of boxing, and it's good for the sport of boxing. If he wants to keep building and growing and developing the sport of boxing, you know, it's a global sport, and I think, you know, if they can deliver a huge event brought to you by Riyadh season there, it'd be massive, and to bring a massive night of boxing back to Wembley Stadium, it's been a long time, hasn't it, when you think about it, since we've had a big stadium fight. So it would be great if that can happen.
One of the leading names for stadium fights in the UK is, of course, Anthony Joshua. He's currently without a fight, but I saw him post on Instagram the other day that he had a call and he's been asked to get ready and he's going to do so. Would you imagine he's one of the front runners for a fight like that if he's going to be a stadium show at Wembley?
Yeah, look, as you say, Anthony Joshua is a stadium fighter. It's what he's done throughout his career, and I'm sure they'll want the biggest nights possible if they're gonna bring a huge event to Wembley Stadium. I don't think anything's set in place, but that would be massive, you know, amongst other fighters as well.
I know you won't want to give too much away, but when you look at potential opponents for that show, let's just say if it was AJ, where do you sit on that front? Is it still maybe pursuing the Filip Hrgović fight if the IBF does get stripped of whoever wins on May 18th between Fury and Usyk?
Yeah, there's the IBF fight. You know, if Wilder was to have a big fight before, you know, and win, I still think the Wilder fight's huge. But it depends. Look, it's going to be led by what Anthony Joshua wants to do, and you know, a driving force has always been winning a world title again. You know, we have to see what happens May 18th as well. But there's big fights to be made.
Frank, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate it's getting very chilly now as well. So thank you for speaking to me. I'll see you soon.
Cheers, pal.